Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid and another week without much to talk about in terms of Wisconsin football, but there's still an algorithm that needs to be filled, so we got to find something to talk about. Now, I am trying to fill that void with the Let's Build an Offensive System series of videos, which there's going to be a couple more here at the end of the week. But I thought this could be a good time to talk about some of the more unique situations that have come up during my time coaching overseas. The one thing that you're going to get with players and teams over here that's a little bit different is a lot of these players are citizen soldiers. They play football as a hobby outside of their day to day life, whether they're students, they work professional lives, whatever. And sometimes those personal or their off the field lives can have direct impact on what happens on the football field. And that's where this story we're going to talk about today comes from. So, give a little bit of background of what we're going to talk about. With European sports, one thing that is unique compared to the States, which is something that some people have said we maybe need over there, is the idea of promotion and relegation, where the top teams in lower leagues are promoted to higher leagues, and the bottom teams of the top leagues are promoted to lower leagues. And the team I'm going to talk about today, which was the team I was with before my current situation, the team Copenhagen Tomahawks, was a team where we had gone through that process. I took over in 2013 to a team that had been just freshly relegated from the top level in Denmark, which is called the National League, back down to we went all the way down to the second division my first season there. And we were in a completely rebuild mode. So as is expected, we went 1-9. And then between 2014 and 2016, we rebuilt the program. We strengthened the roster. And by 2015, we won our first division championship, which is called the Qualification League. Back then, we lost our qualification game, so we went back down to the first division, won another championship in 2016. This time, we won our qualification, and we were moved back up to the National League for the 2017 season, and that's where this story comes from. And it starts with our first game, and we come out of the gates swinging. This was the strongest our roster had ever been in terms of numbers and in terms of playmakers. We played so well. One thing that was really important for us was, in comparison to a lot of teams, especially at the lower levels, we had a lot of linemen. And linemen is something that tends to be a problem over here, because while you can find size, Denmark is a big country, tall country if you look at the national averages, one of the tallest in Europe. But those type of athletes at the time didn't play football as much, or it was harder to get them to buy in to being a lineman. And so when we entered the 2017 season with 7 true offensive linemen, 4 true defensive linemen, and then guys who split time going both ways in between, we were looking pretty strong. And we came out in our first game and we won big. Ironically, against the team that I'm coaching now in the Armor Demons. We came out and we won 50-12. And we made a statement to the rest of the National League that, hey, we might be new, but we're ready to play with the big boys, and we're going to make a statement in the 2017 season. That was our goal anyways. Fast forward a week to the next game. We are going to be taking a road trip to play against one of the perennial playoff teams, perennial champions in Denmark, the Triangle Razorbacks. And this is where it starts with the unique aspects of coaching citizen soldier type players. So we're going to go through my starting offensive line from week 1 and why I only started one of them in week 2. So my right tackle didn't travel to road games, especially what we would call over the bridge road games. There's a big bridge here that separates the island of Sheeland from the western part of Denmark. He never traveled to those games. He had a unique family situation, so obviously it's not about dogging him. They're just saying my right tackle was missing. My starting right guard had family commitments. He could not come. He's a young guy, and as is a lot of times the case, I believe it was a family birthday that he couldn't go to. My center, he was there. He was always one of my rocks. And then my left side of my offensive line missed the game because they were members of the Danish national medieval fighting team. Yes, you heard me correctly. They would put on suits of armor and go stand in fields and beat the crap out of each other with swords. It was fun to watch, but there was the European Championships, and they had to go. So, I was missing 4 out of my 5 normal starting offensive linemen. On top of that, I lost 2 defensive linemen to injury the week before. And so I ended up, instead of having 11 of my normal offensive linemen, I had, 11 of my normal linemen, I have 5 for this next game. I then moved one of my linebackers. I gave him he was my big middle linebacker. He put on a lineman number. So I went to this road game with 6 offensive linemen, or players capable of playing offensive line and defensive line. This is a good team we're playing against, and they showed it. We went promptly 3 and out on the first offensive series, and then we punted. Now, at the time, starting left tackle, who was normally one of my starting defensive tackles, he did play offensive line, and that season we had tried to play guys one way, so we put him on the D-line. On the first punt, he was on the wedge. We ran a shield punt, so we put 3 big guys in the shield. On the first punt, after the ball was kicked, one of the guys who was going after to try to block the kick promptly turned around and hit my tackle square in the back, putting his helmet directly on his kidney. He went flying, he went down, and after a visit from the ambulance, he ended up spending the night in the hospital. So, 5 minutes into our second game, we have gone from having 11 linemen to having 5, including one defensive lineman who specifically transferred to my team because I promised him I wouldn't make him play offensive line unless absolutely necessary. To his credit, he did, and he's still a good friend of mine. In fact, his kid plays for me with my current team, so no problem there. But anyways, the game ends up going the way the game does. When you're outmatched as much as we were, we lose handily. I think it was 55-0, something like that. But it is what it is, right? So I get on the bus, and I can see I have a text message from my guys who are playing or doing their medieval fighting in Ukraine, I think it was at the time. And it's from one of them saying, "Coach, I'm in the hospital. I had my pinky chopped off." And I'm like, "What?" I thought it was blunt instruments you were using, blunt swords. Like, yeah, the guy hit me pretty hard, chopped it clean off. But they're going to reattach it and I'm going to be okay. Just means I'm out for most of the rest of the season. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And we get home. It's fine. One guy gets injured, and it is what it is. Of course, my guy who's in the hospital, he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks recovering from basically a damaged kidney because he got hit in the back. I get a text message from my normal starting right guard that his trainer had seen the score of our game and had advised him that he should be focusing on training both in the weight room and with a personal trainer to get ready to go play college football. So he was going to be withdrawing for the team for the rest of the season, which he did. And to his credit, kid went on to play 5 years at an FCS school. So all the power to him. So I lost him. The linebacker who ended up playing both ways got a concussion. I lost him. Short term anyways. So for the rest of the season, between injuries and family and whatever, we never suited up more than 7 linemen total for the rest of the season. And it leads you to remember to always appreciate what you have, because very quickly it can be gone. And where we were at literally the pinnacle of the program at the end of week 1, how quickly things went downhill. Now, we were competitive that season. The good teams, the routine teams in the top league, they played us tough, especially early in the season. We set a record for yards given up in a game. I think we gave up like 66 points in week 3. It started out bad. We were able to recover a little bit, won a game, came into the second half of the season, played 2 of the top teams very close, had leads going into the fourth quarter, ended up losing, and went into the last week of the season with an opportunity to potentially make a playoff game or play in relegation. We ended up losing at the last second of that game. Luckily, though, we won the qualification game, so we got to stay up for the next season. But we never recovered from, not from week 1 of the 2016 season, but the time in between the second week of 2016 and the end of the first game. We went straight downhill. So it was tough, and it was something that took us a long time to recover from. And by the time we got to the point where we fully recovered and were ready to make a push to the top league, I got fired. And that's a story for another time. So we'll save that for then. Hopefully you haven't tuned out. If you haven't, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.